Okay, hello everyone, I'm Sally Westaway. I work at the Organic Research Centre as part of the Agroforestry team there. So we've been involved in research into agroforestry practices for about 15 years now. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to agroforestry in general and some of the research that we're involved in, and then hand over to Stuart there, who'll talk about the trees that you can see all around you and the agroforestry system here at Allerton. So who knows what agroforestry is and wants to... Oh, I'm sure more of you do than that. So it can be defined quite broadly really as just integration of trees and agriculture. But we think that really you need to make the trees work for their living to a certain extent, and you need to look at having your trees being part of your production system, not just sitting on the edges and being ignored. So rather than farming just one crop or one species of livestock, if you introduce an agroforestry system, you're making it more complex. So you're managing that complexity to try and make better use of the resources that you've got on your farm and hopefully increase your productivity as well overall. So there are different classifications that you may have heard of to do with agroforestry, where you combine crops with trees, that's called silvo-arable, or livestock with trees like you've got here. There's some sheep, wet sheep hiding around somewhere. It's a silvopastoral system. And in the UK we've got quite a lot of different types of agroforestry system. So we've got traditional systems where the trees are already part of the landscape, like wood pastures or parklands. So the New Forest is a good example of that. It's a fairly open treed habitat, but you've got grazing underneath it, and there are wood products in there as well. You've also got traditional orchards where the apple trees are grown not on dwarfing rootstocks, and you've got grazing underneath it, and traditional boundary hedgerows. So something we've done quite a lot of research on at the Organic Research Centre is looking at managing your hedges as a wood fuel crop. So growing some of your hedges, the ones that are well suited to it, on a 15-year rotation, and then coppicing them and using them for wood fuel. And then the sort of agroforestry, it's horrible, isn't it? The sort of agroforestry systems you might be more familiar with are where you've got a planned agroforestry system, and these are less common but becoming slightly more common. So where you've got trees planted into a field that you're already cropping or already grazing livestock on, such as this system here, or you may have heard of Stephen Briggs as well, farm just over near Peterborough. He's got an arable farm, it's an organic arable farm, and he has an apple tree system on there. So he's actually planted rows of apple trees in his arable farm, and partly he's done it to increase the productivity, so he spreads his risk and he gets a crop from the apples which he turns into juice or cider at the minute, and partly to protect his soils. So he's on flats, he's on the fens, and the soils were being lost. There was nothing to stop them just disappearing off basically, and he's put the apple tree rows in and it's helping to preserve his soils. So at the Organic Research Centre we're involved in various different types of activity around agroforestry, the main one being research, as the name suggests, but also knowledge exchange. So we've got quite a big knowledge exchange programme at the minute. Got recent European funding to look at disseminating some of the research we're involved in, looking at the hedgerows, looking at the economics and practicalities of alley cropping, and monitoring the impacts on the environment, and pairing farmers up with other farmers to help exchange that information. So farmers who are doing something well can pass that information on to other farmers, but also to identify where those gaps in knowledge are and where we can help to plug them as well. So I've got a plug as well. So we've got it's called AFANET, the new project, it's EU-funded, Agroforestry Innovation Networks. So I'll pass these cards around, and if you're interested, take a card. There's a short survey on the back here, which if you fill in, when you get to the bottom, if you add your contact details, you'll be added to our mailing list. So we're also actively working in policy, and Stuart's going to explain a bit more about policy, but at the moment there isn't, agroforestry isn't really recognised in current agricultural policy, so we're working to try and get that included in future policy.